County. There might be some hail, but no doubt about it, the main threat that we're looking at in this cell would be some of those rotating winds. I have this looping so it can show you what's taken place just in the last 30 minutes, how it's grown in intensity, and you can see how that red and green starts to wrap up a little bit more. I'll pause this. Again, the area of greatest concern is going to be from Crandall over towards Georgetown. Right now, most of that rotation is right on top of Crandall, so near Interstate 64 right there. And this is going to track off in between Lanesville and Georgetown over towards Edwardsville. And what I don't like about this is I don't think it's going to weaken. I think it will at least maintain and then move towards Metro Louisville. So you're talking about some of the highest populated areas eventually getting involved with the likelihood for damaging straight line wind and then the possibility for these rotating winds. So this tornado warning, as we track it towards Louisville, right now Floyd County, Harrison County under that tornado warning, but good idea if you're in the northern side of Jefferson County all the way over into the southern half of Clark County to get ready and keep watching this particular storm, because if it holds on to that rotation, the tornado warning would be extended to eventually include Louisville. So look at around the A and the N in Crandall, and that is exactly where the winds have started to pick up just in the last 10 to 20 minutes, and it's those winds that are circulating. So if we're going to have a tornado, that's where it would be most likely. I'll give you another look here at a different velocity. Other than this one cell, this is the only storm right now that has rotation in it. There's not a lot of wind power with this line that's moving on in. I think we're going to get a few brief kinks in this line to where there's going to be some rotation noted. That doesn't always equate to a tornado, but if you see that sign that there's some rotation, obviously you have to try to get out ahead of it, and that's what the National Weather Service is doing with that tornado warning. I've seen worse signatures, no doubt about that, in terms of you look at it and it's like, okay, we know that's a tornado. This is not to that scenario right now, but certainly from Crandall to Georgetown, we're going to be watching this one very carefully. Let's take sort of that a bunch of the noise off, you know, all those various colors that you see, and I just want to go to the wind shear product, and this sticks out. This makes it pretty easy for you to understand what's going on. You see that pop of blue right there. That's where there's rotating winds noted. That's where we're finding at least the likelihood for some of those winds that could exceed 60 to 70 miles per hour. So this has just crossed Indiana 135. This is going to move basically right in the center of this tornado warning. So along Indiana 11 up towards Edwardsville, New Albany would be in the path of this, and then towards J-Town and Louisville, we're going to watch that big blob of wind shear. That's winds that start to pick up in speed. That's winds that are showing rotation. So that's what we're going to be paying most attention to in the next 15 minutes or so. Also, the southern flank down around Lanesville, we are noting a little bit of that rotation right now as well. Let's go back and get everyone up to date. So it's 1:13 on this 4th of July. So much going on, and you're probably wondering what in the world. We had some flooding last night with heavy rain. We had some strong storms, but this one right here is definitely a little bit different. It's sort of an oddball that sticks out by itself, where we have this one very strong storm that has started to pick up a little bit of rotation over the last 20 to 30 minutes. And honestly, just in the last 10 to 15 minutes, right before it came into Crandall, that's when it piqued my interest the most. And whether it's going to hold on to that rotation sign or lose it, the bottom line is it's going to move in towards a very populated area within the next hour. A lot of us are outside. Those dark clouds are approaching from the west. So we're talking about a couple 100,000 people potentially in the path of a severe thunderstorm, where we're definitely going to get some wind gusts greater than 50 miles per hour. So that's a look at this overall line extending from around Scottsburg, taking it down to the south as we move towards the Ohio River along Meade County, Breckenridge County line. Eventually, this entire line is going to move up and down I-65. I don't think there's anything to stop it, because if you've been outside, you know how extremely humid it is, how hot it is. It feels like 100 degrees or so. And when that energy is available ahead of this line, I don't think it's going to allow these storms to weaken. I think, if anything, they'll hold together, maybe even increase in intensity a little bit as we take you through the next hour or so. That's why we do have a severe thunderstorm watch that has been extended, and we've expanded that. Let me show you the severe thunderstorm watch as well. So I-64, a few counties north, I-64, a few counties south. Most of the wind energy available is coming at us in one direction, but along this leftover boundary from where we've had these thunderstorms over the last 24 hours, you can get just enough rotation to briefly show up from time to time, and that can help support the chance for rotating winds that would show the possibility from tornadoes. So that's what we have going on right now. It's 1:15. I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer, get you up to date here with that tornado warning that is really showing a bullseye in between Georgetown and Lanesville, right along 62. That's where some of those stronger winds are. This is going to be moving towards New Albany. Let's see if I can get our New Albany camera. Jay, if you can punch up our tower cams, see if you can put up that New Albany cam, because I have it pointed off to the west. So this is from the West Banco location there, just near the Sherman Minton. So this is going to be looking directly into that front edge of the cloud as it moves in from west to east at around 40 miles per hour. So that's going to be a shot that we definitely take from time to time as this storm comes at us right now from Lanesville and Georgetown. Let's go back to StormView HD radar, and we're going to track some of this. Let's see here, move it out a little bit. So in between Georgetown and Lanesville, I'm going to go over here to camera 1. It's a split screen. So on the one side here, over here, we're looking at what the winds are doing. If they're spinning, if they're one direction. On this side, we're looking at the rain. So you can see a little bit of a weak spot here where it's not all red and yellow, a little bit of a kink. That's where some of those stronger winds are noted. Some of that inflow coming into this storm up towards Georgetown, pushing that heavier rain back towards the west. So that's where some of those stronger winds are. This is also starting to wrap in around some of those gusty outflow winds, starting to wrap in underneath it, pushing out. So Georgetown to Lanesville, enough rotation to warrant a tornado warning right now. We haven't had confirmation that a tornado has touched down on the ground, but you see this where it wraps up, and I've been following along where winds away from the radar and winds towards the radar, when you put it together, showing a sign of about 60 to 75 miles per hour. So if we get that down to the surface, whether it's a weak tornado or damaging straight line wind, that's enough to cause quite a bit of damage, a lot of roof damage, tree damage, things like that. So this is going to scoot along I-64, continue in that path. And what we're going to do now is update that tornado warning, show you some locations in the path as it's getting even closer to New Albany. And this would come in towards Louisville, Jeffersonville, Oak Park, St. Matthews. It really is on a beeline from west to east. You can see the estimated time of arrival there with some of these rotating winds. That's a look at what we have right now with that tornado warning. I want to go back and let me do some storm tracking here, and I'm going to show you some telestration. Go back to that split screen. Jay, if you can punch up camera 2. I'm going to do a little bit of telestrating over here. So again, as we have that wind inflow just like that, wrapping down on the backside, this could very well be wrapped underneath extremely heavy rain, so you wouldn't even be able to see it. This is not your classic supercell where it's all by itself and you can see the tornado coming for miles, if we would even get a funnel or a tornado. This is a lot of just junk. I mean, heavy rain pouring down, those winds gusting out of that thunderstorm, probably some downburst winds is what we'd be looking at on this front side as it starts to push out from this storm where it's pouring down rain in Lanesville and Georgetown. So I think right now we'd be looking at some of these downburst winds blowing towards New Albany. And as we go to the other side here, you know how we do the split screen, looking inside that storm for some rotation. Not quite as strong as look that we had when I first came on. Still a little bit of red and green coming together, but when we came on before the tornado warning was issued, I'll show you how it was a different look here. as it was really popping. It was wrapped up quite a bit right on top of Crandall. So it's now 1:20. We have a tornado warning. I'll put this back to the live look here, heading towards New Albany. We have northeastern Harrison, Floyd County until 1:45 with a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado. We have not had any reports of damage. We haven't had any reports of injuries or anything like that. This is one of those typical take precaution sort of severe thunderstorms as we see some rotation on the radar and you try to get out ahead of it. Just in case it does tighten up and get strong enough to where a funnel or a tornado could eventually form. But regardless if you're having a tornado, damaging straight line wind, what we're looking at is a real big problem for the next couple of hours because there's going to be extreme amounts of rain coming down up and down this line. It's into Breckinridge County, Meade County, Harrison County, Floyd County, Clark County, all the way up towards Jefferson County, Indiana, where you're looking at 30 to 60 minutes of gusty winds, 40 to 50 miles per hour at a minimum. A couple of these could impulse up to around 60 miles per hour. Continuous lightning, pool parties, festivals going on. You're talking about parades. And this is pretty much what we expected today. We knew we'd get into that time frame this afternoon where the storms would rush in. We'd probably have to head in for a little bit. They'd do their thing. And then as it clears, we should be able to enjoy a lot of the rest of the afternoon without any thunderstorms and certainly not much more of a risk for severe weather as this eats up most of that humid air, most of that energy that's been building ahead of this developing line. So we're holding on to that tornado warning in Floyd County a little bit longer. The rotation that was once there, definitely not quite as strong, but what is strong, the lightning. We have the lightning counter about to move into Metro Louisville. We're looking at almost 600 lightning strikes just coming into Floyd County. So Floyd's knobs, continuous lightning happening right now. We'll go back to that tornado warning, give you an update until 1:45. Don't be surprised if this gets dropped before we actually make it to 1:45 since we've actually seen some weakening in some of those rotating winds, but we're going to stay on this for a little while. I mean, we're going to ride this out until the warning is dropped. It's about to come into Metro Louisville, and it's entering the picture moving towards New Albany in the next couple of minutes. Also wanted to let Jay, our director, know as he's back there manning the station. You look at that New Albany cam, and if you see anything that jumps out to you to where you want to just go on and punch it up to where you think I need to see it, feel free to do that. That's some of the heavy rain just about ready to come over the hillside right there. That's up at our knobs cam is what we're looking at there as we are about to just get clobbered with rain. This is in New Albany where the rain is just now beginning, but I would expect in the next 5 to 10 minutes, we're not even going to be able to see with that view in New Albany as it is just going to be a crushing downpour. So we're going to go to our velocity product. This is our storm velocity, and we're going to watch this in motion. So this is over the last 30 minutes. And there is some good news. I mean, there really is some good news to pass along. Because 30 minutes ago, when it was entering Crandall right there, it popped up. I mean, I came on before that tornado warning was issued because when I saw that, it was like, yeah, this is the real deal. It has lost that rotation signature, and I think there's a good reason that happened. As we had some of those cooler outflow winds underneath it come in on the backside, I think that sort of squashed a little bit of that instability. We got some downburst winds from that. I wouldn't be surprised if we had some wind damage, maybe just some straight line wind damage in this vicinity in between the triangle of Georgetown, Crandall, and Lanesville. But this is not your classic setup for tornadoes. So if we'd get them, they'd probably be brief, they'd probably be weak, and anything to disrupt that is going to crush that, once signature of rotating winds, and that's exactly what I think has happened is we've lost that. It's mainly just one direction wind now coming towards New Albany, right along 111. It's going to be along the Ohio River into downtown Louisville with continuous thumping, lightning, very heavy rain, the kind of rain that you can't drive in because you're not going to be able to see. You know how it is around here. People will turn their flashers on. They're going to be taking it down to 15 miles per hour on the interstate, and that makes for a mess. So this is not the time to go out there. It's not going to be continuous rain for the rest of the day. This is going to dump and then leave. So you can see now moving right into New Albany within the next 2 to 5 minutes from Jeffersonville into Louisville. We're going to be getting just crushed with some very heavy rain. Mark Weinberg's joining us now. So did they drop that tornado warning, Mark?
Let me verify on that. The rotation, as you noted, has come down significantly.
It's totally different. I don't see that that warning box anymore. It was supposed to go till 1:45, but I thought they might let that expire.
And I just want to verify that, Jude, that it is indeed canceled. But on our systems, both of our systems, it is down. Just making sure in the National Weather Service chat that they did indeed drop this. Tornado warning has been canceled now for Harrison County. So what we're left with now is just a severe thunderstorm watch for our area. We don't have any warnings now in effect. Jude, this one was a storm. You and I were texting back and forth a little bit earlier in the day, and that rotation really started to come up when it was in our western counties. Now we're kind of looking at, it was a single area where we had that persistent rotation. The rest of the line is kind of just generally shown straight line wind potential. I think we're in that scenario here, and this is shown up in the data, where we're probably going to need to watch as this goes by and then moving towards northeast to Louisville. Specifically, we've seen that potential for rotation areas like Madison, Carrollton, and then towards the Cincinnati area. And that transition may be occurring, but at least we're seeing rotation that's come down notably since that storm was in the western part of Harrison County.
It looked like it gusted out, like a little bit of rotation came down on the backside. It gave everything it had.
And there's a new warning,
and
severe
now we have a severe thunderstorm warning. So this is eventually going to be moving into Bullitt County. It's almost crossing the river. Right now we're looking at southern Harrison County. We're going to look at Meade County, Vine Grove locations, Flaherty, Akron.
And I'm just going to pull up the New Albany camera just real quickly so we can kind of see. And you can see this is New Albany. So, you know, I think it's worth mentioning this beyond just obviously what's occurring here is this is 4th of July. And there's going to be a lot of people that are doing outdoor events. And this, I think, New Albany camera at least gives a really important concept of this is not the time. This is not the time for Metro. Louisville, look at New Albany, our camera shaking right now. This was the transient area of rotation that has weakened off significantly, but as you can see, I mean, this thing has to be producing some 50+ mile-an-hour winds. Our camera is ripping, and you can see those flags there absolutely ripping in the wind right now. This is a strong thunderstorm, whether it's severe or not, and this is what's moving towards the Louisville area. Here's the view from our downtown camera.
I had our Louisville cam pointed to the west and ready to go. It's got a shelf cloud on it.
Absolutely, that's definitely a shelf cloud. So the shelf cloud being, and you can see the lightning coming out of there, that's that lowering that would at least be the nose of gusty winds. And you alluded to this, Jude, that it may have gusted out. That shelf cloud would indicate exactly what you're saying, maybe some cool rushing ahead of that thunderstorm.
Which is good to reduce the chance for rotation and tornadoes. It's bad because that can actually expand the straight line wind field as we get the front side of this. There's that lowering, that shelf cloud of that cooler rush of wind that comes in from the top side of the thunderstorm. So this is blowing from west to east, marching at around 40 miles per hour along the Ohio River towards Louisville. We're going to watch this for a little while. Now, this doesn't have a severe thunderstorm warning, but it is definitely worth the mention that warning or no warning, it's the middle of the afternoon on the 4th of July, and we've had so many people outside enjoying dry conditions for such a long period of time that this is rushing in now, and it's like you're scrambling to get cover. So you're going to want to try to get in right now well ahead of this as we get winds blowing from that storm, the rain. Now this is going to be about a 30 to 45 minute thumping of rain, lightning, winds 50 to 60 miles per hour. You know, 50 mile per hour winds, that's not considered severe, but that still will do some damage. You're talking about winds that can knock down tree limbs and move things around your patio furniture. It makes for a mess. So here's the severe thunderstorm warning. This storm has intensified. That one's out there by itself. It's not necessarily in that perfect line. So we'll have to see how this interacts with a little bit of inflow in the next 10 to 20 minutes. Right now, it's just a severe thunderstorm warning. It does not have tornado warning possible tag to it. We don't have rotating winds. What we have is the chance for some winds that could be closer to that severe weather criteria, which is 58 miles per hour or greater. We haven't seen many signatures of hail in any of these storms. It's so hot, it's difficult to get big destructive hail in this environment. This is mainly a three-hazard kind of event. When you look at the continuous lightning, all these white lines, the chance for more flooding on top of the heavy rain that we had yesterday, and then the wind threat that is going to bull rush right on over into the Bullitt County area. This will be closing in on I-65 pretty soon, within the next 15 to 20 minutes, and eventually into Jefferson County. This will head towards Fairdale, Brooks, Hillview, and Shepherdsville. Mark, I know you're just getting in, but you've been watching things from the house for a little bit while you were getting ready, and you've been monitoring the radar. We were discussing things. How have you noted the evolution of this line in the last hour or so?
You know, what I find interesting is Jude makes a couple of really important points here. Number one, the main part of the line here that's coming through Louisville was the tornado warn portion of that line. What we have seen is an evolution in that rotation where there was notable rotation for probably about 30 minutes. And I'm going to take you back. What you're going to see here is near Georgetown, so this would be north of Cordon as it came through Crandall. You can very clearly see there's an area of rotation here. This area of rotation was what we were watching very closely. Then they issued the tornado warning as that marched to the east, which then kind of takes us into the now. What's changed? It looked like it started to push mainly cold air out in front of it. That becomes important because thunderstorms feed off of warmth and high dew points. Since we don't have warmth, if there's cold pushing ahead of the storm, you lower the tornado threat. Taking us now down to the south, what has happened here? Well, Jude, I think, accurately picked up on this, and that is this storm generated ahead of the line. So you'll notice in Brandenburg at 106 no storm, and then it exploded ahead of the line. That's why that storm quickly went severe. So we know on that particular tower, damaging winds are going to be possible as it goes up really fast and then can come down. And we even see a small area of rotation that still could develop. I think, Jude, if we're watching for rotation, I think we're watching now near West Point, southwestern side of Louisville on that storm. I think the northern part is primarily going to be winds now.
And go into our Louisville camp. Look at this.
Okay.
Or try to see what's happening. You remember 5 minutes ago we saw that shelf cloud?
Right. I'm going to take this down. There's the downtown
visibility,
shot.
Nothing. So
wow.
Lightning, heavy rain, visibility maybe a quarter of a mile, and winds that are gusting 40 to 50 miles per hour. So it's not a severe thunderstorm warning, but we're staying on air for good reason, because this is coming through an area where we're talking about a few 100,000 people on the 4th of July.
I know.
Just getting drenched, getting wind-driven downpours. This is live in New Orleans. Flag, it just keeps on whipping around right now. Just because there's not a warning with it doesn't mean you disregard it. This is the same storm that had that tornado warning over around Georgetown and Crandall. So we'll watch that. Sometimes these cycle and you can get a little bit of spin coming back, but also we're watching that storm coming out of the Meade County area as it moves right on over towards Bullitt County. And this is going to be hitting a location there where, again, a lot of population into Bullitt County, I-65 in the middle of the afternoon on the 4th of July. And you're going to have to try to drive through this if you're thinking about heading out into it. So not a good idea. So we have one severe thunderstorm warning right now. That continues to hold its own. Thankfully, Mark, you might be able to say something differently, but I have not seen this curl up into any strong sign of rotating winds with that severe thunderstorm warning.
So the one thing I think we still need to watch here, for just being transparent on this, is that storm that's developed now, that's approaching West Point, remember, is ahead of the line. When it's ahead of the line, what that basically means, it has a little bit more fuel to work with. We know that this storm has not pushed any cold air out ahead of it yet. Remember that term outflow dominated? Outflow dominated means cold air rushing out ahead. If cold air rushes out ahead of a thunderstorm, it means that You're taking away some of the fuel. This particular storm has been ahead of the line. By the way, 7 minutes from now, West Point, 12 minutes from now in the Fairdale area, 22 minutes from now in the Hunters Hollow area, and then going down the line. But to your point, Jude, this one does have a little bit of a tail on it, a little bit of a hook here just to the west of West Point. So we need to still watch that one. Remember, the other storm that did have that rotation and was persistent for about 45 minutes was alone ahead of the line. This one is ahead of the line. Ultimately, the back will catch up to it. So the window for it to produce some rotation is narrow. So as we look at this, one of the things I will tell you is the radar is really, really close. Remember, radars have to shoot the beam, not straight out, just a little bit up. And the reason is, if not, the beam would hit the buildings of downtown, it would hit tall trees, it would become useless. So you aim the radar up. So the closer you are to the radar, the closer we are looking towards the ground. The hook is right here. And Jude, I think you probably would agree, I'm not seeing anything in there right now that concerns me in terms of rotation. And quite frankly, even speaking to the winds that we're seeing on this right now, it's not showing, excuse me, a large signal of extremely strong winds. That said, it went up so quickly, it can come down so quickly, and in those short period of times, you can still get those damaging winds.
And just because on the velocity we don't see much rotation, when you do see in the precipitation pattern a little bit of that hook, you know there's inflow into it. You know there's some wind getting drawn into it, especially since it is all by itself on the front side. So it is definitely something we're watching. But if there was an indicator that there was rotating wind, what the National Weather Service would do with this particular severe thunderstorm warning, they would go on and tag it tornado possible. That severe thunderstorm warning that we had coming out of Crawford County earlier had the tornado possible tag to it before it went to the warning. That's not to downplay this. That's just telling you exactly what is happening. We don't sugarcoat anything. We just keep you going with exactly what is happening. And what we can tell you about downtown Louisville as we come a little farther to the north, it is bad right now. Look at this rain coming down. Whew.
And there's been tons, I mean tons of lightning. Look, if you have outdoor activities here anywhere in Metro Louisville in the next, I would say 90 minutes, pause. You've got to go with the pause. Jude's got lightning strikes on there, and he's just going to look at that storm that's moving through Metro. It's got 545 lightning strikes on it. Please, guys, if you're in St. Matthews right now, if you're in Prospect, if you're in Crestwood, Middletown, if you're in Newburgh, if you're in the forest, just please use caution. We are here downtown and we can hear the crashing lightning strikes. It is not the time to do anything outdoors right now. If we're to see some damaging winds, I think we would still be most concerned near West Point. That then would move towards Shepherdsville, the Brooks exit along 65, ultimately towards Fern Creek, Mount Washington. That area went up. And normally when they go up really quickly, they can come down really quickly. So as that storm behind that runs into it, we need to be aware of that. But there's a lot of lightning here on the 4th of July. You know, Jude, you and I talked about this yesterday, this morning. The data this morning, you were in a scenario where you had to choose what to try to show on TV because some of our most reliable high-resolution computer models showed 0 at this time right now. And we knew that with this warm, humid air mass and with this boundary here, we were going to generate storms. And so I hope everybody got that message that storms were very, very likely. But you really need to be aware in Louisville. St. Matthews 6 minutes from now. You've got to bring things inside. You've got to bring things inside. Linden 12 minutes from now. Newburgh 21 minutes from now. And Fern Creek 29. Be aware, even if you're only talking 40-mile-an-hour winds, I think we really need to be aware of the fact that there's potential here for excessive lightning as this moves across our area. And Jude, I don't know, do you have the power outage graphic anywhere in your shows?
You know what? I did not load that in, but you know the power outages are going to be lining up real fast.
I'm going to pull that in
with this
just
kind
so
of
we
lightning.
can take a look.
In fact, let's go over to analyst. Jay, if you're watching and listening
take 2 if
carefully,
you could.
Let's go to the analyst. If you can pop that on TV.
He's going to have to pop on a TVM2.
TVM2.
So which would be reality. Jay, if you could let me know when you've got that reality box shown, then I can make adjustment on my other one.
Another point, Mark, after almost record rainfall yesterday in Louisville for the day. You know, 2 to 3 inches for parts of Jefferson County. We're going to get these rainfall rates happening right now of 2 to 3 inches per hour. So those poorly drained areas, there's going to be standing water. It's going to be awful out there. More flood advisory criteria is going to be lighting it up all around Metro Louisville, Floyd, Clark County. This is not a long duration storm, but nonetheless, the amount of rain that comes down in 30 to 60 minutes will lead to some flooding. So we're looking at our downtown cam, pouring down rain. We'll go back to a radar vantage point. Mark's in the process of loading in our power outage maps so we can get that up to date as we look at that looping radar from I-65 from Sellersburg, and then as we go down to I-65 entering Bullitt County and then along the Ohio River, you see one big tail of orange and red. That's telling us the rain is intense. And then all of those white lines is exactly where we have continuous lightning, cloud-to-ground lightning happening.
And so we've got here, if we can go back over to the weather system, we've got our power outage map up for you. So there's 111 people without power in Harrison County and 75 without power in Jefferson, 36 in Oldham. These numbers are not large right now, but I would say that this is a real-time assessment if storms are doing damage. So let's remember, under 100 for Metro Louisville and Oldham County, and let's see as we go through the next 30 minutes or so, as this makes its move across the metro, if these numbers would start to go up. Taking a look back at the downtown camera here, remember moments ago you couldn't see anything. So on a positive here, this is moving, it's moving quickly. It's not going to be sitting over the same area and produce the same kind of rain that we saw yesterday over that period. But as Jude mentioned, in a short period of time, you absolutely can still get very large quantity. So the positive here is that, again, I don't think we're talking about 2+ inches of rain like yesterday. And the areas where it's rained, like Corydon and Seymour, it's down in the lower 70s. This will help. Bardstown had a heat index just a little bit earlier that was over 105 degrees. So hopefully we can get a grasp on that, get that lowered back down, and hopefully we can get things feeling a little bit better. And beyond all of that, and I'm moving our camera, by the way, in Louisville, slowly off to the east so you can see that storm as it's marching east to the metro.
Well, and that's what's developing quickly on the Jefferson-Oldham County line, one of those supercells that is ahead of it. You were just moving that camera around to look up that way. That's definitely just caught my attention. That has a little bit of wind that's starting to pop on it, and there's also right on the Clark and Jefferson County line a quick hit of developing wind. That's, see that big blob of red, and that's in a little bit of a notch. So that's up around the Indian Hills area, about to cross I-71, right in there. So that's some developing wind, and then over towards Anchorage. So two areas, fast evolving. That's how storms go. You know, every second that passes, they morph and change. Arrow there, again, St. Matthews, Indian Hills location, Prospect, then you get up towards Goshen, and then move that over to the east. Right here, a developing storm. This isn't a tornado or anything, but it's come on so fast in the last 10 to 15 minutes. This would be wind going towards the radar down at Fort Knox. The red, that's wind going away. So we'll see how this develops in the next 5 minutes or so. We don't have a warning on it. You can come over to this side. There's Crestwood. As we head over towards Todd's Point, this is going to drop a 1/4 to 1/2 inch of rain. I know you might look at this and think, that thing's small. That's tiny. But dew points are around 80. This is not your ordinary rain burst that's coming down. So we'll get these radar updates every few minutes with the mode that we're in right now. So we'll see how this interacts. Again, Jefferson County as we go into Oldham County, and then over towards Shelby County, moving away from downtown. We're getting out of the heaviest rain and the worst of that storm, but then moving into this severe thunderstorm warning that extends until 2 o'clock. So 16 more minutes if it's allowed to go that long, as it still has that chance for winds. Right now, I'd say more likely 45 to 50 miles per hour. It's still close enough to severe weather criteria, though, that we're watching that one. This is Louisville. The rain intensity has come down, so that's better. I still think we should wait. There's so much lightning that we've gone from that rain burst hazard to now looking at the chance for the lightning hazard.
And Jude brings up a valid point here. I'm going to show you lightning here, and on the banner you can see the number of lightning strikes here. These have been very, very vivid lightning producers, so I'm just going to take this into the metro. On the banner you're going to see real-time lightning strikes over a 30-minute period. So understand Metro Louisville, there's been 907 lightning strikes, 905 now in the last 30 minutes. You need to be careful. Obviously, if there's barbecue, if there's pool, if there's anything going on outside right now, it's time to bring it back in. Let's go ahead and let this go by. It's probably going to take 30, 45, 60 minutes before it goes by, and then you can get back out and do your activities. One thing to note is, remember that cell that you'd noted that was going up along the Jefferson, Oldham, Shelby County line is now producing lightning as well. So Anchorage lightning on either side of you. This is now near Crestwood heading towards LaGrange. And really all of Metro, we need to be aware that there's potential for a lot of lightning, and as you know, lightning and being outside just don't go well together. So please use a little caution there. I'm going to show you what we've got from Simpsonville. Wow. I don't know what to say on this one.
They're not going to be out there much longer.
I mean, these are not finishing on a green. These guys are teeing off. Not the best idea to be teeing off right now. I would say that, you know, on a golf course, you basically are looking at lightning rods in your hands. And, you know, if you've got any friends that are out there playing golf on this 4th, give them a call. Say, guys, this is not the time. Let's pack this in. Let's bring things inside. Severe thunderstorm warning remains in effect for parts of our area. Most not under severe thunderstorms right now. But the current severe thunderstorm here is along the Jefferson and Bullitt County line. This one is going over West Point right now. The reason this is quite important is since it's sitting on West Point, we should have good data here within the next, you know, 10 minutes in terms of whether this is going to generate much wind. And the reason I say that is when it's on top of the radar, you may hear us sometimes refer to the cone of silence. Radar, right when you're on top of it, doesn't do a great job of seeing exactly what's occurring. But this little green burst that's west of West Point, once this goes by the radar, that will turn red. And red means it's going away from the radar. So this is really quickly going to give us a very good sense of whether this is producing damaging winds. Now, the warning remains in effect until 2. The National Weather Service will make a reassessment based on the next 10 minutes on whether they're going to stay with this. Honestly, our logic here is it's the 4th of July. A lot of people have outdoor activities going on. With storms moving through the metro, we just think it's better to play this safe. So 4 minutes from now in the Cuppio area, 29 minutes from now in Shepherdsville, and 30 minutes from now in the Gap and Knob area, which would be south of Hillview. So this is really basically, you're talking about moving across I-65 in about 30 minutes. And that area that we're watching, specifically Hardin, Harris, and Meade, and really, if you're asking me to be more exact, I would tell you along the Jefferson-Bullitt County line. So South Louisville, let's call it Preston, let's call it Fern Creek, let's go with Mount Washington, Shepherdsville. These are the areas where we're going to see that core coming through. While it's the only severe thunderstorm right now, as you'd imagine, when we have heat index values that are near 105 and we generate thunderstorms, you're going to get crazy amounts of lightning. And that's kind of, I think, Jude, here, you know, on a lot of days we'll go with the severe, like the damaging winds as really being something we watch very closely. But in a scenario like we're in today, where it's the 4th of July, there's pool events, there's lake events, you know, the lightning has to be something you really are concerned about. The lightning is a high risk on a day like today. And I'm going to show you, look at that, Jude, power outages. There it is. I knew it. So we are getting damage here in Louisville, guys. We now have 3,593 without power. So remember, we use the reference point of 100 people without power in Louisville. Whether these storms are technically strong enough to meet the criteria for what we call severe weather, which would be 58-mile-per-hour winds or stronger, irrelevant. Now we have confirmation that they've done damage, because you don't lose power from rain. You lose it from either lightning hitting your transformers and nuking them, or you get it from winds causing power lines to arc, to tear, or trees go down on those power lines. So we're now up to about 3,500 people without power in Metro Louisville. You'll notice Harrison County hasn't changed, Oldham County hasn't changed. So I do think it would be fair to say that the storms are potentially doing damage in Louisville. And I saw you looking at rainfall rates, so this is another part to this.
This is up and down that line. you're talking rainfall rates of 3 to 4 inches per hour. Most of it won't rain that hard for an entire hour, but in 30 minutes you get 2 inches of rain.
I know.
It's all running off. It's creating flooding, basements, sump pump alert. It's bad. Thankfully, it is moving fast, and we're going to clear it out. And this is going to help clean the atmosphere of that instability. So we deal with this mess right now, but we reap the benefits for the remainder of the afternoon into the evening that this lowers that storm chance, and we should be able to get many firework displays off tonight without a big-time thunderstorm problem. But right now, if you had plans to go meet up with your friends, family, or go wherever, you're trying to drive through rainfall rates of 3.5 inches per hour. I think another thing to point out, that heavy rain is right on the radar at Fort Knox. And it's an amazing radar, but even that radar can be messed with when you have so much rain coming down. That attenuation, it can actually make it look like some of these areas of rain are weakening, or the storms are weakening, but then as it passes by, all of a sudden it pulses back up with a lot of red.
I mean, in terms of lightning, you know, in the downtown area, we've seen a dramatic improvement here. I'll take you over to the downtown Louisville camera. So we've seen a big improvement here for downtown, and that's kind of the thing here. And I'll show you, we're looking at 65 there. If you live in Louisville, you know 65 is just one of those areas where it's elevated and you're going to get tons of flooding on there. So we're looking at the traffic's moving pretty well in 65, which to me says it's not caused any backups yet. And let me just make sure Weather Service doesn't have any flood alerts on any of this at this point. Just again, and I'm going to put up a couple things here. Looking at rainfall amounts here.
We don't have flood warnings, but some flood advisories are possible.
Okay, so in terms of, you got power outages?
That's for New Albany and Clarksville from Duke Energy.
So Duke's reporting 1,160 now without power in New Albany and Clarksville. These are rainfall amounts here in Louisville. They don't really rival what we saw last night, which is good. But nonetheless, the short period of time you're getting extensive rain. From here, I just want to cover this as well. We still have the flood watch for Louisville and West. We do not have any flood warnings out there right now. And again, I just thought it was worth mentioning that. And back to power outages here briefly. I'm going to show you the numbers here. Duke Energy is reporting, excuse me, around 1,160 without power from New Albany and Clarksville. And that's one of the areas now where you're seeing on our map a dramatic increase. So if you just remember last time we looked at this, Floyd and Clark did not show many people without power. Now Floyd and Clark additively are showing over 1,100 without power, which is just what we mentioned. So from Clark County through Floyd into Jefferson County, at minimum we've had lightning strikes that have caused some damage to some of the power grid, or number two, we have some wind that's caused some power outages. But Clark and Floyd together are looking at around 1,180 now without power based on our map, and 3,593 without power here in Louisville. On a positive, you know, the 4th of July fireworks are probably going to go off pretty easily tonight.
Some good news.
And that's, you know, I said this on TV last night. I said, I can't give you the whole day. I said, but you know, these thunderstorms that are probably going to come through, I said will probably lower your chance for fireworks time. And I said, I thought we could probably get you a good fireworks time. And that's
great news.
And we have 7 minutes from now until the severe thunderstorm warning expires. I will say if the severe thunderstorm warning is allowed to expire and we don't have any more warnings, we'll let this go. But still, let's focus back in on that severe thunderstorm here briefly.
And I think it's worth noting, since we don't have as much widespread wind damage as we did with some of the recent severe weather, you know, our power outages probably aren't going to spike that much more. You know, we had 50 to 80,000 people without power for days. You know, so we should be able to get out there and get things fixed relatively soon, so your air conditioning would come back on, which is great news. And this is kind of nice that you get an extended version of a weather update. It's not like we have an NFL game on right now. We like Tamron Hall.
Is that what's on right now?
That's what's on right now.
Okay.
So we're cutting
it's not
into
NASCAR.
We're cutting into her programming, but I think we all know that it's not like we have 500 million people watching Fox News, you know, WDRB at this very second. So we're not cutting into anything that's going to make people that upset. We're getting you ahead of these storms and giving you an update. We're not going to stay on that much longer, but let it pass through at least 100,000 to 500,000 communities here of people that are trying to get up to date with the forecast.
And just looking briefly back at our outage map here, 3,500 in Louisville, 1,100, about 1,180 between Floyd and Clark. These are the 3 counties where we have the most outages that are being reported. Jude, I'm going to head over to the wall real quick and let's do a brief update again on radar, what we have going across the area. I do want to talk about the areas where we've seen storms pulse and the areas where we have seen the severe thunderstorm warning. So as we look, remember Jude pointed this out, storm that was popping near the center field area. One of the things you notice, it doesn't have excessive lightning on this. I think what's happening here is these storms are interacting with one another so extensively that it is helping to lower that severe weather threat a little bit. But really understand, no matter where you look at, anywhere you see these oranges and the reds, 40+ mile-an-hour winds are possible. And that may not meet severe weather criteria to get a warning out of it. But I think on a day like today where a lot of people are outside, I do think it raises an eyebrow and says to you, I need to just be a little bit more aware here. Jude's going to kind of track the whole line basically through Metro Louisville. And this is going to give you a sense of A, when the burst occurs. Understand that you're probably talking about 30 to 45 minutes post these times on when it ends. So I'm just asking you for basically about an hour here. So in the Highview area 3 minutes from now, excessive lightning, some 30, 40 mile-an-hour winds. Fern Creek 7 minutes from now, be aware that it's going to come with a really heavy burst of rain. Most of the lines produced about a ½ an inch as it moved through. Shepherdsville 15 minutes from now. Now Shepherdsville, you're in an area where you're to the east of the severe thunderstorm. The warning doesn't include you right now. But if it was to pulse up again, a warning could be issued. We'll know very quickly here on what's occurring. And Jude, I want to look at the velocity right near the West Point radar area because the storm is sitting on top of the radar. This should be an incredibly valuable time for us to assess, are we getting damaging winds here? So now, I remember I told you it would turn to red as it comes out. It does look like there's a couple of pink pixels in there, which I think are probably going to be north of maybe 40 mile-an-hour, 50. So we do have some 50s here. Severe thunderstorm warnings are going to be issued for basically 60 mile-an-hour winds. So what we're seeing here is a couple that are showing up that are nearing that severe criteria. Also remember, we're looking very low to the ground. Whether a warning's reissued or not, I think you should prepare for some 50 mile-an-hour winds in Shepherdsville, in Mount Washington. I think we need to be aware. Now you'll notice Jude was picking out the brightest points. The general is this reddish color, which is going to be more of the 40s. So there's going to be some speckles in here of winds that could get to 50, 55, and 60. And all of this is going to be moving across much of Metro Louisville. Most of Metro Louisville, now let's talk about Oldham County, through Shelby County, through Bullitt County, winds to 40, 45, 50 are going to be possible. And again, the strongest winds are in the southern part of Jefferson and the northern part of Oldham County. But Jude, you know, all across this, you're still talking about a lot of these reds, which are still 40 mile-an-hour winds. And, you know, we've talked about this extensively. You've got the blinding bursts of rain, and then you have the extensive lightning that just simply doesn't go well with outdoor plans.
This is exactly like last night when the storms blew in. I can tell you, I was out on my patio about 10 minutes before they hit. The gust front, the gusty winds, makes you nervous a little bit. They're blowing 40, 50 miles per hour. You need to get in because there's a lot of lightning. As soon as you hear thunder, you don't want to be on the patio. But along 71 from Campbellsburg, Kentucky, down towards Buckner and LaGrange, and then now pulling out of downtown Louisville, that northeastern part of Jefferson County, continuous lightning, heavy rain, winds that would probably be just like last night, 40, 45 miles per hour, which really limits the damage potential. It's enough to get your blood pressure up, but it's really not enough to blow down your house and rip off your roof.
And in some of the heaviest bursts here, Jude alluded to this, but I'm looking through the Kentucky, the MSD rain gauges, which, by the way, I got to tell you, they are such a value to us and such a help. We are so grateful to MSD for sharing their information with us. But they're showing a couple of their gauges now showing over 3-inch-per-hour rain rates. You're like, wow, Louisville's going to see 3 inches of rain? No, because it's not going to rain for a full hour at that pace. But that gives you an idea of that blinding rain that's going to be out there as you attempt to drive. Now, I know if you're without power, you're probably like, Mark, show me the map again. You got it. Still 1,180 without power from Floyd and Clark. No change there since the last time we looked, and still 3,593 without power here in Louisville, which was a spike. We went from about 75 up to 3,600. We'll continue to go back to this as we continue to look, and you can see Jude's here looking at radar. I'm going to check with the Weather Service, just get a sense on what their plans are. As it stands right now, severe thunderstorm warning remains in effect here until 2 p.m. for Harrison, Hardin, and Meade County, and severe thunderstorm watch is in effect through 7 p.m.
So
Jude,
that
you're
warning, the warning should expire any second, because we haven't seen anything that's suggesting those winds are cranked up 60 to 70 miles per hour, keeping it severe. It's borderline moving into Bullitt County, I know, but as we continue to look, we don't see anything that is saying it's definitely holding on to that severe weather criteria. Right. Strong thunderstorms, I-65 in Bullitt County, southern Jefferson County. I always like to say Hillview to Highview, Hillview to Highview. Hillview to Highview. Highview is where it is pouring down rain. So they've let that warning expire. You know, this is what we're looking at now at 2 o'clock. No warnings, a lot of lightning, a lot of summertime 4th of July storms that happen quite often when it's this humid, and the chance for a few more flood advisories. So, Mark, do you want to keep going? Do you want to send it back to regular programming for now, since we're not...
Yeah, I think that's the right thing to do at this point here, Jude.
Not looking at anything that, you know, is life-threatening necessarily?
Yeah,
or out of the ordinary?
I think let's recap here kind of what you'd mentioned. There's lightning strikes for Metro, 1,001 lightning strikes here over the last hour. The concern here, at this point, there's not any severe thunderstorms right now. I just think that we need to just urge some common sense. If you've got a thunderstorm moving towards you, bring things back inside. This is not going to last all day. You're probably talking an hour where I need to disrupt your plans and then go about it. If you've got plans later this afternoon to be grilling out,
good news. You'll be able to fire up that grill.
Are you going to be grilling?
I'm not. We grilled out this morning here at work. I'm done on the grill duties. But look, there's going to be a lot of people happy come dinner time, man. These storms are moving out.
And let's even get beyond that for a second here. We were really, really dry. We've got moderate drought in the southern part of Indiana. I mean, this rain, maybe not, we maybe didn't want it on the 4th of July, but this isn't the only time it rained in southern Indiana. We had more this morning. This is beneficial rain in July, which is something that's liquid gold. We kind of know we need it. It's a good thing. Let the storms go by. Let them move past. 40-mile-an-hour winds are going to be common, frequent lightning, and really just explosive bursts of rain that are in the 2 to 3 inch per hour rain rate. Remember, we've got severe thunderstorm watch until 7 p.m. If we get any more tornado warnings, we'll come right back in here. Keep it right here on WDRB for continuing weather updates.